Hello, folks. I'm Ray Smiley, and usually you don't see me like this, but I want to make it very certain that I believe that it's not just a coincidence that we have had one, but two major storms set to hit the state of Florida in the middle of the week. Back in the early 90s, the federal government allegedly, I haven't yet to find any more information on this because it seems to be blocked through Google. But the federal government had obtained I guess, patent as to how to quote unquote create hurricanes and steer their direction. And I think this might be a bunch of conspiratorial bullcrap, but on the other hand, it just seems a coincidence. Typically, and I've ever since I was in grade 6, I've always tracked hurricanes. I was an Andrew baby, Hurricane Andrew, Miami, Florida, 1992. I was a baby when it was, when it hit. Hurricanes are part of life in South Florida. Typically, they, you would think, I know many people that live here that would during hurricane season move their boats up north to avoid potential impacts from hurricanes. But it seems now, and now let me digress. Miami, Broward, and Palm Beach County tend to be blue voting areas. And the Panhandle, Tampa, even Tampa can be a little liberal, Orlando, whatever. But they tend to be more red, quote unquote, on their voting, especially in the last few years since the Fauci flu took hold. People have moved to these places and they tend to vote Republican. It just seems weird to me how, first off, University of Colorado, I don't understand why the University of Colorado is predicting hurricane outcomes when Colorado could never potentially get a hurricane. University of Florida, other places predicted 27 named storms this year, I believe. We're now on M, which is, they may have skipped a couple. That's what? Halfway up the alphabet. That's 12, 13 named storms. I don't know. However, it just seems odd. Now, it could be, but typically hurricanes move west, not east. 2017, we had Irma. It kind of moved east. It went over the Keys, and then, but typically they move west. Now, of course, there's upper level troughs and this, that, and the other thing. But this particular one, Milton, it is 2 days ago. Not even 2 days ago, a day ago. Well, I guess maybe 2 days ago now, as it's 2:07 a.m. Friday, before I left to work, this was just supposed to be a disturbance in the middle of the Gulf. Wasn't really going to affect anything. It was just supposed to fizzle out, go over Mexico, and maybe up around Texas. But now all of a sudden it's moving the other way, straight toward Tampa and the other parts of the state that were affected by Helene. Now, Helene affected other North Carolina and a lot of red voting areas, except for Asheville, very blue area. However, those people apparently seem to be fairly fine in the main part of the city, whereas everybody else is under mud and everything else. They want to vote, but they might not be able to. And now we're looking at a major hurricane barreling down right toward Tampa when they've already been hit. And this thing is going to be big, folks. I'm a lifelong Floridian. I know about these things. I'm not trying to say the government's behind it or whatever, but you can't rule out the obvious. And all I have to say, I don't think we have early voting in Florida until they're worried about this, folks. They're worried about this. The Democrats, they know that their response to Helene is detrimental to the cackler getting into the White House. It is. She's done a horrible job. Biden's done a horrible job. But it doesn't, $750, really, when you've lost everything, but it doesn't make a difference because they figure these people can't go out and vote. It just seems a little odd to me. And I think a lot of this is hyped up due to the climate change Green New Deal agenda. Being the fact that I've lived in Florida. I was born in 1990. I've lived in Florida my entire life. Miami, Florida specifically. The only real hurricane we had was Andrew. We had some brushes with this side or the other thing, and it was never really a big deal. Andrew was a big deal. It looked like a nuclear bomb went off. But the thing is, when you're in South Florida, water comes in, it goes back out with the tide. It's not the same as it is being if you're in North Carolina or in a Tennessee Valley or anywhere else where you get a hurricane or the remnants of a hurricane that just dumps a ton of water, you flood and you're up to your chest in mud. That some of these people they're still sitting in their living rooms up to their chest in mud, and they want to vote, but they can't. But I guarantee you, the Harry Bowles administration, I mean the Biden-Harris administration, is going to make sure that those Democrats in bright blue Asheville find a way to get out to vote. So, the early voting in Florida, I don't believe starts for another week. If you have absentee ballots and you live in the state of Florida, within the track of this storm, get your ass out and go vote. They're trying, and I'm not saying they are. This just could be an unfortunate coincidence to Republicans. But I think they're trying to prevent you from voting. Makes sense, right? You don't see these storms hitting blue areas. For example, in 2012, Hurricane Sandy that hit New York, New Jersey, the Obama administration gave everything to them. They were fine. They were up and voting, maybe voting twice, even some of them. But these poor Republican people up in the mountains of North Carolina, they ain't gonna be able to vote. And if a Category 5 hurricane, they call it to be major when it makes landfall somewhere between Wednesday and Thursday, hits Tampa, who's already been hit by a hurricane in the past 2 weeks. That might impede a lot of people from voting. And these are people we don't have early voting in the state yet. I implore to Governor DeSantis to make an executive order for people to early vote in the counties that are in the direct path of this storm. Even though it may not be part of Florida state law, we need our votes counted. We do not need Kamala Harris winning the state of Florida. And that's what people want to happen. Not our people, but their people. And they have ways of making these things happen. As I can find out here, early voting in the state of Florida starts on something up. See, even on this computer, I could not get actual information on any of this stuff going on. They won't allow it to happen. And nothing. Early voting doesn't start until October 26th. If the storm hits and it decimates half of the state, which is predicted to happen, I request that citizens of Florida be able to vote in any district within their own district, which means they can go, say you live in Hillsborough County and then you flee the storm, but you go to Miami-Dade County, you can get a Hillsborough County election ballot and vote in Miami-Dade County for your own district, not in Dade County. For example, if you're in District X, you get a ballot for District. Because if this thing whacks Tampa, which has already been whacked, now our governor is great at restoring power and everything else. People are going to have to rebuild. And I just find it odd that storms that were supposed to be nothing burgers turn into major hurricanes and simply just hit Republican dominated districts. I think we need to get out and vote. Unfortunately, we can't early vote in Florida until October 23rd, which I always thought was a good thing. But I think it's coming to bite us in the ass. And if you're intending on early voting for Kamala Harris, please go back to cranking your hog or whatever you're doing. We don't want you to vote. But if you're intending on voting for Trump, if you have an absentee ballot or a mail-in ballot, get those things filled out and get them in the mail. Stat, which means sooner than already there, for those of you living in Rio Linda. This is very important. I can't stress the nature of it enough. I started doing these shows after the late great Rush Limbaugh passed on, and I thought I'd be good at it. Nobody watches it, so I really don't care. My late mother, before she passed on, said, "Keep doing these things." I gave up on it for a while because YouTube canceled one of my channels for giving factual information, which they called misinformation, about the woke vaccines and this, that, and the other thing. I haven't done a show in months. It makes no sense. Nobody watches it. But upon seeing all this and what I've seen and noted to be true, coincidence maybe, I think it's very important for everything that I have to say. Forget what I have to say. Think about, you have elderly people in your family, grandkids, kids, anything that you care about. Make sure you get your vote in, or make sure you have a plan. If you live in Florida and you're in path of this storm and your house gets demolished, make sure you have a plan to vote. In these situations, times, and all this, a lot of people, going to votes, the last thing on their mind, they figure, well, Florida's going to go for Trump anyway. Not necessarily. If a lot of the red voting districts in Florida are taken out, Miami-Dade County, Broward County, Monroe County, Palm Beach County, those are blue districts. If there is enough Democrats voting in those districts and enough people are taking offline in other districts, Kamala Harris can win the state of Florida. And because of what happened in North Carolina, she can win North Carolina. She will win this election based on hurricane damage. That is why they're not helping. So make sure you have your homes, your pets, everything secured. Because if she gets in there, they will be eating your pets. Maybe. Maybe not. I don't know. I haven't been to Springfield. I'm not sure. But you want to make sure you get your vote in. Come hell or literal high water. I have a canoe in my living room. I'm ready come hell or high water, and I will get my vote in. Because it's all we have. I cannot imagine a country run by a cackling side chick whose husband beats women and knocks up nannies and makes them have abortions because he couldn't keep his cock in his pants. I wonder if he's good friends with Dave Grohl, folks. I bet he is. Emhoff Grohl and the hairy armpits. Anyhow, folks, thanks for tuning in. This is important. And make sure you get out there. Get your vote. Now, if you're planning on voting for Kamala Harris, stay the fuck home. If you're planning on voting for Trump, get out and vote as soon as you possibly can. Because that is one less thing that we have to worry about. Because we have a lot to worry about. And right now, things aren't looking too good for us. If she gets in, our country is done. And I mean done. Cheers to you.